Welcome to the second of our induction videos. This induction training is part of a larger induction for new staff, and during this training we'll further explain policies and procedures of the organisation. As a new employee, your ability to understand and comply with basic procedures and demonstrate key competencies is vital to ensure that you meet our expectations. You need to have a strong understanding of the lines of authority and reporting structure. In your position, you will have at least one person that you report directly to, and you may have more than one person who provides supervision for you and directs your work or parts of your work. You need to understand that you may be directed by a number of senior staff and need to demonstrate respect and respond professionally to all reasonable directions given to you. There are two primary types of service that we provide: community-based or home care and centre-based. But within those structures, whether you are working in administration or direct support, there's a program where you go through a level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4 and level 5. The regional manager for a site or an area is responsible for the overall program activities. Your level 5 supervisor, their titles may vary from assistant manager, allied health professional or senior coordinator. Level 4 supervisors are referred to as coordinators or team leaders. And within level 3, your roles are generally referred to as being a senior worker or senior staff. In addition to your direct line reports, as shown in the previous organisational chart, you will also work with other senior staff who will provide you with direction, instruction and feedback. These are senior staff with specific roles that you also need to show respect to and follow their directions, whether they are from central finance and administration, consultant services, the training division or human resources. If you are ever not sure of who you report to or who you should ask, there's a simple solution. You can call the staff helpline on 3112 4042 or talk to your supervisor. You need to be able to clearly explain what your position is and what you believe the lines of reporting are, so we can assist you further. So if you ever do have an issue or problem with your direct supervisor, you can refer to the organisational chart and escalate your concern to a higher level staff member in a professional and clear manner. The Ablecare Foundation uses a number of approved suppliers or partner divisions for some services. These suppliers may be different and separate organisations. You need to also understand that you must maintain confidentiality and professionalism when you have communications with wider stakeholders. If you are rude, act unprofessionally, or in a disrespectful manner towards stakeholders and suppliers, they are likely to lodge a formal complaint about your conduct or choose not to use our service. You may meet people from diversity education training organisation, response staffing, a range of community maintenance and repair suppliers, as well as public servants employed by the Department of Communities, Justice, Health or Police. It's also very important to understand that family members and advocates of our clients and members of the public are also expecting you to display quality care and professional standards at all times. As an employee, you are obligated to follow workplace health and safety guidelines and rules of the organisation. In this session, we'll provide an overview of some of the critical areas that you need to be aware of and ensure you are complying. There is no single rule on how to lift or assist with the movement of a client. It is based on risk assessment and the manual handling code of practice, which is available on the internet. You need to follow the manual handling guidelines that are covered in the online induction instructions and care plans of your clients. Each client who requires manual handling support is assessed, and the care plan will describe the level of support that is required. It's important to remember you must never lift a client other than a very small child without the assistance and guidance of an experienced carer or therapist in accordance with the manual handling code of practice. You need to use hoists if they have been provided in the home. One person can use a hoist to transfer and move a client, unless it has been risk assessed and it is written in that care plan that the client requires 2 people. Trainee staff and home care level 1 staff must ask for assistance when moving a client and never do this alone, as they are in training and learning skills within the industry. Do not move furniture or lift heavy boxes without assistance, and utilise slide sheets and hoists when provided. Personal protective equipment is supplied and you are responsible to ensure that you use it. Gloves must be used for food handling, cleaning, personal care, and any situation where there is a risk of contamination from body substances. Gloves are available in vinyl and latex, and if you have specific skin allergies, you need to advise your supervisor. Hand washing must occur when you move from one client to another client, and when assisting with meals and personal care, or changing linen and dressing a client. Closed-in shoes with non-slip soles must be worn. You may require a set of wet shoes to be worn for assisting with showering and cleaning. Thongs are not allowed. Plastic aprons must be worn when assisting with showering and personal care or changing and handling soiled clothing and linen. First aid kits are supplied to employees and are available in all arrangements. You have a responsibility to check these contents and assist with reordering and maintaining the supplies. Fire equipment is also available in arrangements and homes depending on the site type and classification. There will be fire extinguishers and usually a fire blanket. You have a responsibility to check that you know where that equipment is and that the extinguishers remain in working order, i.e. they are in date, they have a safety clip and the gauge is in the green zone. You are also responsible for reporting any faults or equipment that needs to be maintained or repaired. Houses are fitted with electrical safety and hardwired smoke detectors. You must never use double adapters, and you're responsible for reporting any inappropriate use of electrical adapters or double adapters that you may notice while you're on work sites. Medication assistance and supervision is a role that is part of a direct support worker's role. Trainees and home care level 1 staff cannot administer medication. If you are a trainee or a home care level 1 staff and are asked to administer medication, you need to refuse. You cannot administer medication until you have been assessed as having this competency by a trained supervisor or qualified professional. Medication cannot be given to any client out of a Ziploc bag or plastic dose container. Medication must be stored in a safe and secure place. You need to know why a client is taking each medication type so that you can understand their condition and signs or symptoms. You do this by ensuring you have read that client's care plan and the information related to their medication. It's important to remember that as a basic rule, medication can only be administered from a named Webster or blister pack from a pharmacy, a medication bottle or box with a pharmacy named label, or a named roll pack from a pharmacy. There is additional training available in relation to assisting with the administration of medication, as well as hard copy policies and procedures for you to review. At Ablecare, we like to ensure that all of our staff dress professionally and appropriately, as you are representing the organisation, and it also reflects the wishes and choices of the clients that choose our service. Uniform, if it is required, must be worn, with flat closed-in shoes. Hair must be neat, and vibrant hair colours or patterned shaving is not allowed. Long hair must be tied back. Body piercings must be removed, including nose, lip, eyebrow and belly. A maximum of 2 sets of ear studs or small earrings in each ear can be worn. Tattoos must be covered with suitable clothing. No singlets or low-cut tops are to be worn. and shorts must be mid-thigh length if worn in summer. Hats must be worn on outings. Plain t-shirts or shirts are allowed if you are not wearing a uniform, but only if approved. What this means is t-shirts that have messaging on them or advertising are generally not approved to be worn. No necklaces, rings, bangles or other jewellery should be worn while you're engaging in direct support work, and no personal mobile phones can be used for personal use or use of iPods for personal music while you are working directly with your clients. We'll review again some of the basic instructions relating to electrical safety. No double adapters are to be used. Each house or centre has an electrical safety switch. You need to check that you know where this is. Ask to be shown when you arrive on site. Water and electricity do not mix, remember, so do not use electricity or cords in wet areas. Remove any broken items that you see. Report any broken items and label them with "Do Not Use," broken, and the date and person that you reported this to. If you notice that the item has still not been maintained or repaired within a reasonable time, you need to escalate this to a higher level manager. When you're working in wet areas, remember there are risks relating to slips. Wear non-slip closed-in shoes. Clean up spills immediately. Do not leave wet towels on the floor. Mop and dry bathroom floors immediately after use, and use wet area signs where they are available. It's also important that you advise and communicate with your co-workers and the clients you're supporting if any floor areas are wet and recently been cleaned, so they are aware of the hazard. Within community services, occupational violence and other hazards also occur. Outburst behaviour may occur with clients for a range of reasons. General principles to keep yourself safe include using a walk-away policy if you are feeling unsafe, withdraw from the area and call for assistance. Other basic strategies can be keeping your distance, or placing a piece of furniture in front of you, or using a pillow as a block. Clients who have support needs relating to behaviour have care plans. You need to read these, follow these, and be able to answer questions about these individual plans. Every client with behavioural support needs has a plan, and every client has a care plan that you need to access and review. We'll talk a little bit around terms that are commonly used within the industry. Prohibited practices. You are not allowed to engage in any prohibited practices with an adult or a child that we support. That includes hitting a client, which can include grabbing their hair, slapping a client, screaming or abusing a client, or using strategies that are harmful, hurtful, or punishing are prohibited practices and in many cases criminal. Another term that you need to be very clear about is a reactive or restrictive practice. So reactive and restrictive practices are practices that are allowed when they have been approved as the least restrictive strategy for dealing with a challenging behaviour, or they are also approved as a reactive response when a person is at imminent risk. It's important that you understand that reactive practices are very important ways to keep our clients safe and need to be used. A reactive practice and a reactive response is appropriate when a person is at imminent risk of some form of injury or danger. This can include restriction to items, containment, meaning closing and locking a door to prevent somebody running onto the road or running onto a train track, seclusion, physical restraint. You cannot use these strategies unless it is an approved care plan or there is imminent risk and you have a duty of care. And at this point, only reasonable force is able to be used within a reactive practice. There's a range of practice and framework documents available for you if you have any concerns or need clarification about whether or not your practices are reactive or restrictive and when you should do these. In an emergency or one-off situation, if you do use a reactive or restrictive practice, it's important that you report it so that care plans can be updated. When you're working with people with a disability or other complex support needs, there are also a range of common occupational violent risks that we would like you to be aware of. These can include the potential for biting, headbutting, pinching and scratching, screaming and swearing, throwing items, hitting, punching, kicking, hair pulling, pushing or pulling you, or picking up sharp items. This doesn't occur with all clients, but it's important that you're aware of the potential risks. Basic safety strategies include keeping your distance and walking away, keeping alert and aware of what a client is doing, using protective items where required, using your voice strong and confident, stop, asking the client to stop, and asking the client to calm down where appropriate, as well as calling for support from co-workers. It is important that you remain extremely vigilant around safety of car keys, house keys, credit cards, and your own personal money. These items can be stolen, can be taken, and can result in some significant critical incidents. If, for example, if a young person or a client takes the car keys and attempts to drive a vehicle, it's very important that you're alert to these potential risks, specifically around keys and codes. There are also a range of potential emergency situations that may occur while you are working that we need to make you aware of. In this session, we'll discuss briefly what these may be. You need to remember general rules for any emergency. Follow the basics of first aid, Dr. ABCD, and keep yourself safe. Stay calm, follow procedures and directions, call for assistance, follow instructions, and do not panic. A number of medical emergencies that may occur within the disability framework may also occur, and these include, most commonly, epilepsy or seizures, a client slip or fall due to a mobility issue, or potentially a client that may have problems with eating or drinking, choking, or if they have difficulties breathing. The most common emergency situations that you are likely to come across are listed here. You need to follow first aid guidelines in all cases and contact on-call and emergency services 000 or mobile 112 if there is a life-threatening emergency. As discussed previously, a number of occupational violence or aggressive risks may also present themselves depending on the clients that you are working with. There can be a range of reasons why a client may go missing. These are some of the most common reasons to be aware of and to avoid. You need to avoid these by ensuring that you follow the procedures relating to locked gates and doors where this is required, as well as being vigilant, maintaining a head count and awareness of where your clients are, and close supervision of all clients in your care at all times when on shift. In all cases, you need to follow the client's care plan and instructions from staff. You must ensure that you keep PIN codes and keys private and secure where needed. Follow the basic strategies of ensuring safety, calling for assistance and following instructions, and following the client if they are in sight and it is safe to do so, and ensuring that you maintain contact and communication with other co-workers. Unplanned events can happen at any time. It is essential that you think ahead to potential situations that may occur while you're on shift and know what your response would be or what the crisis intervention plan requires you to do. The following scenarios should be considered in your reflection as you prepare for your work. A child is attempting to climb a fence that is on a busy road to run away. Do you use physical restraint to stop them or allow them to climb over the fence, as it is illegal to restrain a person? In this case, you would look at it would be appropriate that child is at imminent risk, and the use of a reactive practice to physically restrain them and remove them from the fence and assist them to walk inside to a safe place or safe area would be considered appropriate. A child has climbed up a tree, swearing and screaming and refusing to come down. Do you climb the tree and get them out? Call emergency services, or supervise and wait for the child to come down, even if it takes 4 hours, if there's not a falls risk. Again, in this situation, if there is not imminent risk and there's not an imminent falls risk, it would be appropriate to supervise and wait for as long as possible to allow that child or that client to calm down. And then you can engage and use strategies to redirect them and return to general activities. Otherwise, climbing the tree and getting them out may result in you placing yourself at risk, and that needs to be considered as well. Maintaining a clean and organised environment is more than just tidiness. It is a safety measure. The following items could be hazards in a home, centre or community setting, and you need to ensure all items are stored in the correct place at all times, being aware that everyday items can cause property damage or become dangerous items or weapons if an individual becomes unregulated and demonstrates a behaviour potentially causing harm. Please be aware of where scissors and knives are stored and where they are used and returned when they are not in use. Art, paint or glue can easily be spilled, ruin desks, ruin carpets, ruin clothing, and you need to be very vigilant about how you use these. Clothing left around on floor, belts, things like that can be trip hazards. Office stationery needs to also potentially be looked at. Pens and things that can be swallowed, thrown, choked on. Brooms and mops should be left and stored in cupboards or in the appropriate areas. And medication, again, needs to be in a safe, secure place to prevent potential risks of overdosing, choking or any other unintentional side effects. So if you are involved in an incident, there are also procedures to follow after the incident. Details of any incident need to be reported, and critical incidents are reported to the department and stakeholders. You need to report the incident, including the time that you may have used any reactive or restrictive practice and the time you ended using that restrictive or reactive practice. You need to discuss the incident with your supervisor and engage in an informal debriefing or review session and possibly a formal debriefing session. Debriefings are used to help us to assist to ensure that everybody has returned to a regular program of activities and support, and the steps of each of the debriefing processes will vary, but generally it will include discussing the facts, thoughts, impressions, emotional reactions, and planning for the future, and disengagement or care plan changes that may need to occur. Now we'll move on to another key standard that the organisation expects of frontline staff relating to food handling and hygiene. We'll do this by going through some basic do's and don'ts. Do wear gloves, use aprons and wear closed-in shoes. Do use your hoists and slide sheets for manual handling. You need to ensure that you cover all food and date leftovers. It's important also that you need to double bag continence pads and rubbish before you place them into the rubbish bin. You do need to remove rubbish from your work areas during the day if it is required, and keep your work area and centres organised, neat and clean. So audits do occur on a regular basis, and the following examples are real examples of situations. They can be seen as examples of unacceptable standards, but also are often perceived as staff who are disrespectful, unprofessional and lazy by our clients. And again, if our clients don't like the support that you provide, then they won't choose to remain with us as an organisation. Do not allow yourself to be one of these staff if you wish to have a long and successful career with Ablecare or within the industry as a whole. Beds must be made properly. Staff sleepover beds must be covered and made at all times. It is not acceptable to leave a staff sleepover bed just as an open mattress. Old pillows must be replaced and have clean pillowcases on them at all times, and dusting and surfaces must be wiped regularly. We can see in this picture mattresses have been left uncovered and unkempt, and there's a range of pillows yellowed without pillowcases on them, as well as a very dusty table and workspace. Furniture must be cared for. In this example, the beanbag chair has been left thrown in the corner and not puffed up or moved around to redistribute the beans after client uses. The second example is of dirty windowsills with dust, dirt and cobwebs. Items must not be stored on windowsills. In this particular example, the care staff had formed a habit of placing old gloves on the windowsill after use, which is not acceptable. Holes in the wall can occur either accidentally or after an outburst behaviour. Plaster walls do break easily, and it's not uncommon for a client to hit a wall and break it in some form of frustration or outburst behaviour. However, you must report these and ensure a maintenance work order has been issued. Then you should cover the hole with either a small picture or a plain piece of paper until it is repaired. The second example is where staff have left computers, workbooks and resources simply lying around on tables. After using any item, it must be returned to the correct storage place and area, never left lying out randomly on tables in shared areas. The first picture we're looking at here is really how not to leave a room when you've finished using it. Chairs should be placed back correctly and all items stored properly. The second is an example from a client home. The picture wall was supposed to have photos of the clients to help create a welcoming and warm home feel. The staff, however, had not bothered to complete the task and simply hung empty frames, left blanks in the framing, and no person could be bothered to straighten the pictures while they were on shift. This is not an acceptable audit standard. Other examples that we would consider not acceptable, an example which is poor practice, relates to storage and organisation. The second is where staff have used fences to hang mats and towels. These mats were left outside for a number of weeks, and no staff took the initiative to return them inside or hang them properly over a clothesline. Our clients would like to communicate to direct staff that they don't feel that these are acceptable standards. This is the end of this session. There's further videos in the induction training. We will cover a range of different areas related to quality standards, code of conduct, and other reporting and recording requirements. Thank you for your time.